Hey, Steve Chase here. This is my presentation learning for this year. I just wanted to look back, kind of using BC's core competencies and flesh out a few of the things I've been working on, a few of the things I've been learning about myself and my own practice, and from you guys, my students. And yeah, I wanted to talk through personal cultural identity competency, wanted to talk through creative thinking competency, wanted to talk through communication competency a little bit with some examples from my practice. As I said here, these are the three that are in draft in BC right now, so these are the three I'm going to key in on. First off, in positive personal and cultural identity competency, one of the things mentioned is I can identify how my challenges become opportunities for growth, and I wanted to key in on that. It's been cool in my practice being able to kind of push inquiry and push PBL a little bit and get to know the way students are comfortable doing that and are challenged by that in their learning, and then seeing the rewards in their learning as well. And one of the things that's been interesting this year is working with a few different groups. So I've got a group of students that I've known for a couple years now, and I've got a group of students that I've known for about a total of a semester. And I've really seen the way in my practice that relationship influences where we're able to go and what we're able to do, right? Because it takes time to change learning and teaching, and it takes relationship, and it takes kind of small steps, right? We want to go together, we want to ask questions, we want to reflect on the experience, and learn together. So I've been looking at that, and I've been looking at inquiry practices through that lens. And I say that because there's been challenges along the way, right? And there's, we challenge students, and students challenge us, and there's some healthy challenge there. And then there's a point where we kind of look at resistance and how students just find it difficult to move with the teacher. And I felt that, and we've worked through that with some students this year. So that's kind of something I've been dealing with myself. And I think out of those challenges, out of that looking for change, looking for progression, one of the things that I've looked at more critically in my own practice is how I feel about change and how I do change. And I'm very much seeking to become a more strategic educator in the key things I focus in on and in my classroom, and then looking at how that plays out. So I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell in terms of my own identity, my personal competency. Thinking about change myself, thinking about how strategic I am to move with others in change, or to do change in a way that's comfortable for all those involved. Right? That's where I'm seeking to go to. I have here on the left a blog post where I talk about inquiry a little bit, and get into kind of the way I've done inquiry, and talk about how relationships play into that, and then look at kind of a framework for moving inquiry forward in BC. So I'd say change is a part of it for sure. Secondly, when I want to look at communication here before I talk about a passion. Well, no, sorry. I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna talk about creative thinking competency. One of the things that emerges in the end of this BC's draft description of creative thinking is this statement that I can develop a body of creative work over time in an area of interest or passion. And I love that for kind of the capstone of creativity, where we want to get to, where we want to get our learners to. And it's been interesting thinking about that and reflecting on my practice. As I said, I'm working in project-based learning, I'm working in inquiry learning, I'm working with other teachers in that, I've worked with lots of students in that. And for me on the left here, you see the three things that I've sought to key in on, and this ties back to the strategic thinking, strategic working. For me, it's about curiosity, connection, and creation. And here I got a slide from a presentation where I pieced together definitions of project-based learning, and how that I believe that those themes, curiosity, wonder, connection, creation, those themes kind of tie together, those two things. So this is a blog post on the left here about those three themes, and just wanted to kind of share that as an example of how I've fleshed that out or explored that in my practice, and that very much those themes have become my area of interest or passion, and this blog post kind of fleshes out the way that I've developed that, I'm working in that, and I'm moving forward in that. So that's been my creative thinking. It's kind of taking existing works, describing PBL, describing inquiry learning. Genius Hour I think fits into these three things as well, models like that, and looking for this way to creatively weave them together and get strategic about it. Again, going back to my personal goal. Finally, communication. Oh no, sorry. You know what? I'll get to communication because I want to go there. Here's an example to illustrate that creative thinking as well. This is a project done with the Science 9 class, chemistry demonstrations. Our big driving question was, why do chemicals react the way they do? And for us, curiosity in this context was a science demonstration, was something that happens, a chemical reaction that we can explore and see and hear and feel and whatever, right? We can see the science, and then our inquiry was kind of wrapped around that. And if you sort of glance through this outline down on the left, we're talking about explaining, giving examples of physical and chemical change, describing matter and its states, structure of atoms, properties of elements, structure of atoms using Bohr diagrams. Now we're kind of layering on that, so there's just some repetition. Scientific inquiry, scientific method, ionic and covalent compounds is where we went. So those were our connecting points, and we connected those to the actual experiment that students had seen. We connected those to learning, right? We connected those to kind of different activities, different readings and questions we were answering along the way, but tied into kind of this curiosity students had about their demonstration, right? What's going on with this demonstration? Why are the chemicals reacting the way they're reacting? And then also kind of what went through there and culminating in their final product, what they created, was the question, how can I do that? And how can I do that well? How can I do that demonstration better? You know, and through iterations and experimentation, students were tasked to perform this demonstration for us and tell us how they had gotten to this kind of culminating performance, right? What they had done along the way in their successive demonstrations to make it what it was and make it as good as it could be. So there's an example of you know, a project and how I feel those themes were tied into that project. Finally, now I want to talk communication a little bit, because in BC's description of communication, we get into showing understanding and control of forms and technologies. That's in the 7th profile. In the 8th profile, we talk about accessing and making strategic choices from complex and specialized information sources, showing expertise in the forms and technologies we use. And one of the things I've been playing with myself is my ability to facilitate conversation, right? Facilitate rich thinking and dialogue in others. And that's my goal as an educator. And I've used these themes to do that. And again, back in these slides on the left, we're looking at the themes. On the right was kind of what I tasked some folks to do as I was exploring project-based learning with a group of educators this spring, is we kind of asked ourselves, you know, what does this look like? If we're going to talk about these 3 themes, if we believe that projects are about connection, curiosity, creation, where do we see the evidence of that? I just explained my own example from Science 9 from the chemistry demonstration project, but I think it's worthwhile, you know, for educators, if we're transitioning to PBL, looking at how these things fit in a project-based learning context, because I believe we do all these things already. That's the beauty of the themes I'm rolling with, is that we want our students to be curious, and we already, you know, look for opportunities to do that. We want our students to make connections, and our work is about that. We want our students to create something to demonstrate their learning at the end. So on the left here is kind of a selection of videos I gave to educators on which they could kind of explore those themes and answer those questions. Where do we see curiosity? How do we see connection? How do we see creation? So for me, my facilitation has kind of been wrapped around a good prompt. Right, we're starting with those 3 things. We started with some setup, some why before we even got there. Started with some examples, but then it was about the discussion. You know, here's some themes, here's some resources, have some discussion, and then it was about the sharing. Once teachers had done this, then we got to just go around and just look at what others had seen, perhaps in the same video, in the same project, or at a different project at a different age level, and then there was dialogue kind of between groups, right? Once we had all these specialists in these individual projects, we were just facilitating some conversation about the different ways we see curiosity happening, or the different ways we see connections, the different ways we're creating products to demonstrate our learning. So that's been something I've been exploring as well in terms of my own communication competency and what I'm doing with teachers and students, with learners. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.